After years of being plundered and oppressed, I lost my memory. Staring at the haggard, emaciated woman in the bronze mirror, I asked in disbelief, is this ghostly thin figure really me? The capital's most beautiful woman, who once took pride in her looks, had been reduced to a living skeleton. I stormed off to confront the mastermind behind it all, yet there he stood by the moon gate, tall and slender, with strikingly handsome features. His dark, fathomless eyes gazed calmly at me. And for some reason, my knees went weak. So handsome, father. The little sprout beside him tugged at his hand, pretending to be calm as he asked, Mother Consort seems in good spirits today. Do you think she'll hug me? Who knows? His expression turned slightly mocking. One thing's certain, she definitely won't be hugging your father. Hello, everyone. Welcome to my channel. Subscribe us to read wonderful stories every day. Now the story begins. I woke up to find I'd transformed from a blossoming maiden into a regent's consort, and the forcibly abducted kind at that. My childhood maid wept as she told me. I was originally married to my childhood sweetheart cousin, but the regent took a fancy to me, forcibly seized another man's wife, compelled me to bear his child, and kept me locked in his bedchamber for daily torment. What's more, the night before I lost my memory, I just stabbed that very regent with a hairpin. He's still lying in bed, unconscious. This is the perfect time to escape. The maidservant tugged at my sleeve, her gaze resolute. Miss, let's run away. Let's find Master Shin and wander the world together. Me, pushing away the maid's hand, she collapsed stiffly onto the bed, closing her eyes, wishing desperately it was all just a dream. Eyes shut, then open, still the same canopy embroidered with phoenix patterns, and the maid's tearful eyes. She exhaled heavily, about to pull the maid aside to ask what had happened, when she spotted a soft, pale little dumpling standing at the doorway, a jade hairpin atop its head, tiny fists clenched tight, eyes brimming with tears. Mother, are you leaving? Take me with you, please. I'll be good. I eat very little, and I won't be a burden. I froze for a moment, still processing the situation, when a maid nearby suddenly shrieked, Princess, who allowed you in here? Are the guards all dead or what? She strode over, roughly grabbed the child by the collar and shoved her out. The child's porcelain-white face flushed crimson from the choking, flailing in frantic struggle as tears streamed down like broken pearls. Shattered and desperate, Qingping, I rushed from the bed to embrace the child, frowning as I scolded, What are you doing? She's still so young. Young mistress, you were the one who said you didn't want to see. Enough. You may withdraw for now. Qingping had been my maidservant since childhood. Someone I should have known intimately, yet since waking this time, I inexplicably felt a certain resistance toward her. Suppressing my doubts, I crouched down and gently stroked the head of the sobbing girl, softening my voice as much as possible. Whose child are you? What's your name? How old are you this year? Her sobbing suddenly stopped. Her dark grape-like eyes widened as she stared at me blankly and confused for a moment before bursting into loud wails, still crying. She lifted her skirt and ran outside, shouting loudly, Father, Mother doesn't want me anymore. Father. The child's wailing resulted in a crowd squeezing into my modestly sized hall. There were guards, eunuchs in crimson robes, and palace maids adorned with silk flowers, and there was a little boy in a python-patterned robe, about half a person's height, wearing a jade crown. He patiently wiped the tears from the little girl's face, soothing her gently. Finally managing to soothe the girl until she stopped crying, she turned to look at me, a trace of sorrow flashing through her clear eyes. Mother, I know you're concerned about Lord Shin and resent Father, but my sister is still young and doesn't understand things yet. How could you say in front of her that you don't want her? I didn't say that. Even if I was still confused, in this situation, I vaguely understood some things and hurriedly tried to explain. I just forgot everything. It's amnesia. Do you understand? I really don't remember anything, don't recognize anyone. I didn't mean to make her cry. I truly know nothing. The boy froze for a moment, his expression turning grave. Summon the imperial physician from the palace. He paused and said, and also, go report to Father in the main courtyard. The father of these two children was none other than the regent prince whom Qingping said had snatched me away from my cousin. Logically speaking, since he went through the trouble of taking me, he should be quite fond of me. The imperial physician took my pulse for a long while, yet the man himself never appeared. The little girl was carried away by the palace maid to sleep. The young boy sat upright with solemn dignity on the nearby couch, his black python robe splayed out, looking every bit the precocious child. Only his small clenched fists and trembling shoulders betrayed the fear and panic befitting his tender years. "Doctor, what's wrong with my mother?" "Don't panic, Your Highness. Her ladyship the princess consort is not seriously ill, she's merely suffering from temporary amnesia. She will recover in due time." The imperial physician stroked his beard, prescribed several doses of medicine, then bowed and withdrew. The little boy let out a sigh of relief. I tilted my head to study him. His youthful face, round eyes, and fair, tender cheeks framed by the somber python robe created a rather incongruous and comical effect. "So, are you my son?" I got out of bed and ran up to him, bending down to cup his smooth cheeks in my hands and kneading them with exaggerated surprise in my voice. "I actually gave birth to such a big baby." His deliberately composed little face showed cracks. He instinctively leaned back, frowning as he called out, "Mother, what's your name?" I smiled and patted his head as I asked. His voice trailed off, his gaze lingering on my arm for a moment before he said softly, "Your son, Jiheng, what a lovely name. Since mother is well, this son must go to Father King for his lessons." Praise made him slightly uncomfortable, his cheeks flushed pink as he turned his little head aside, hopped down from the soft couch, and clenched his fists to march out. I pressed a hand atop his head. "Let me accompany you." I paused for a moment. "Come to think of it, I haven't seen your father since I woke up, that so-called husband of mine, the scoundrel who forced me into this skeletal state through coercion and plunder. I'm dying to see what kind of hideous face could make me prefer death over loving him. I imagine regents must all be like those described in books, sinister, malicious old men, with sagging flesh, frequent flatulence, and reeking of that distinctive old person smell." Having formed this preconception of my future husband, I took a deep breath and let the little boy lead me by the hand. Peering curiously along the way, I excitedly pointed out butterflies fluttering over peonies, only to be met with the boy's tight-lipped exasperation. "Mother, how come you're more childish than little sister?" I sheepishly rubbed my head. Entering the study, I was welcomed inside where my eyes first met towering bookshelves, accompanied by the ancient fragrance of ink, and an extremely handsome man, tall and slender with handsome features, his jet-black hair gathered by a jade crown cascaded down to his waist. The dark python robe clung to his lean yet powerful frame, giving him an air of both elegance and strength. I was momentarily spellbound, until the child respectfully called out, "Father, Your Highness." The man responded with a quiet hum, set down the letter in his hand, and lifted his gaze to meet mine. "What are you here for?" "Me, you. You're the Regent King, so young and so handsome." He raised his eyes to look at me, not particularly surprised. "I heard from the imperial physician that you've forgotten everything about me." Not particularly harsh, just a deep voice with dark eyes fixed on you, inexplicably making you feel overwhelming pressure. Just like when my brother and I used to draw little figures in the classroom of the great scholar, and father punished us by making us kneel in the ancestral hall. I hunched my shoulders slightly and nodded. He gave a slight nod of his head and waved his hand to signal the child to leave. Once the child had left and the door closed, all traces of kindness vanished from his face. He raised his eyes to look at me, his gaze now nothing but biting coldness. "I don't care whether you've truly lost your memory or are just scheming to mock me again. You can cause as much trouble as you want in the manor. But you are not to harm Hanger and Shinger, that is my bottom line. If you dare use the children to achieve your ends again, don't blame me for showing no mercy. I'll have your cousin flayed alive, do you understand?" His description was gruesome, his voice was also fierce, yet strangely, I couldn't muster much fear. It was as if I'd grown accustomed to it before, knowing that no matter how angry this person before me became, he was just a paper tiger putting on a show. I blinked, pondered for a moment, then raised my eyes, shining brightly, and softly called out to him, "Husband." His icy expression froze. Frowning deeply, he scolded, "Stop dreaming about using these messy tricks. I won't fall for your schemes again." He's so fierce, how baffling. What schemes did I even use? All I did was call him husband once. Why did I get scolded for that? I wanted to get angry, but looking at his face, I just couldn't stay mad. Beautiful people remain beautiful even when they're scolding someone. His furrowed brows didn't diminish his beauty in the slightest. Instead, they added a touch of melancholy to his sharp features. The raging fire in his eyes made one's heart ache terribly. "Don't be so fierce." Twisting my fingers nervously, I whispered, "I'm just a little hungry, my lord. Even if I've made a mistake, at least let me die with a full stomach." He looked even angrier. Sweeping the inkstone off the table with his hand, striding towards me, he bent down, forcing me to sit in the armchair, his legs trapping me as his python robe billowed open, the intense scent of ambergris swirling around us. His voice was fierce, yet tinged with a hint of grievance. "You're seducing me again. What is it this time? Begging for an official post for your brother? Or pleading for me to spare your cousin's family? In your eyes, am I really that cheap? That I'd willingly become your dog with just a beckoning finger? I'm telling you, in your dreams." I was a bit dumbfounded. How did I seduce you? I was just hungry and wanted to eat something. That's all. This body is as thin as a skeleton, so ugly even I can't stand it. I just want to take good care of it. How could it possibly be seductive? His breathing grew heavier as he stared unblinkingly into my eyes, his pupils reflecting the fine down on the tip of my nose. After a long pause, he gripped my chin and kissed me with gritted teeth. No, it wasn't a kiss. He was biting me, hard, fiercely, viciously, as if I were his most hated enemy, sinking his teeth into my lips. Blood soaked through my lips and teeth. I pushed him away with a pained whimper, my eyes brimming with resentment. But when I saw his azure-like expression, I instantly cowered into silence, muttering under my breath. I wiped the blood from my lips with a handkerchief, desperate to punch him, when suddenly I noticed the dark stain spreading across his waistline, dripping blood in steady droplets. I widened my eyes. You're bleeding. This is all thanks to you." He stood up coldly, wiping the blood from the corner of his mouth, his tone dripping with sarcasm. "You performed well today. I'll spare your cousin's family for now, but if you ever dare to run away with him again, don't blame me for showing no mercy." I wasn't paying attention to what he was saying. I pushed him onto the chair and frantically called for a doctor. How could there be so much blood? Clutching the only remaining part of his clothing not soaked in blood, I knelt trembling before him in panic, collapsing to the ground. "Why hasn't the doctor arrived yet? You won't die, right? There's so much blood, it's terrifying. Woo-woo." His threatening words abruptly stopped, after a moment. He lowered his gaze and met my wet, sincere eyes filled with concern. He raised his arm and patted my head. The tone regained its gentleness. "Have you really lost your memory? What else?" I found him baffling. "Why would I lie to you for fun?" He gave an eerie smile, spreading his large palm to let me rest my head on it, while I watched with trepidation as blood dripped down in droplets. "My family has been a lineage of upright civil officials for generations. The harshest punishment we've ever faced was kneeling in the ancestral hall for a few days. Never had we seen so much blood. With so much blood lost, can a person still survive?" I looked up at him with concern in my eyes, yet I met his dark gaze, flickering faintly in the afterglow of the scorching sun, like madness, like mockery, like a venomous serpent in the dark night, baring its fangs at me, pondering how to devour me whole. I stumbled backward instinctively. A belated resistance surged in my heart. No, I wasn't afraid of him. In fact, his appearance made me instantly and involuntarily fond of him. Yet deep in my subconscious, there's always a deranged version of myself, a madwoman who'd rather starve to skin and bones than compromise or yield, clutching at me desperately, forbidding me from drawing close to him, as if yielding to him would be a betrayal of my former suffering self. I collapsed onto the floor in confusion, staring at the pool of dripping blood, uncomprehending. What exactly happened during these 10 years? I watched as the imperial physician bandaged his wound. It only occurred to me later, Qingping had told me that the night before, I had stabbed him with a hairpin, so this injury couldn't have been from me, could it? Guiltily, I rubbed my nose and thought to myself how impressive I'd become, once too afraid to even step on a grasshopper, now daring enough to kill a man. "Your Highness, the Crown Prince's wound must not come into contact with water. Nor should he be provoked to anger, otherwise, it may aggravate old injuries and become difficult to fully heal. Oh, remember, Your Highness must not be angered," the imperial physician emphasized once more with great concern. eyeing me warily as if I were some vicious beast that might harm his prince. This displeased me. Then you should tell him. I'm not a mind reader, how could I possibly stop him from getting angry? Besides, His Highness is the Regent. Do I really have the power to make him angry? He'd have had me beheaded long ago. Your Grace, enough, leave for now. The man on the bed spoke heavily, his bare back revealing a waist wrapped in bandages. Beneath the white fabric, one could vaguely discern the lean yet powerful contours. His bronze skin was covered with knife scars, ferocious, yet adding a kind of battlefield beauty. Stop looking. Noticing my gaze fixed on the scar on his chest, he seemed somewhat uncomfortable. Pulling the quilt over herself, she instructed the eunuch beside her, summon Hanger and Shinger, and have the meal served. Are Hanger and Shinger the names of two precious ones? He gave a slight nod. Ji Heng, Ji Xing. Ji is the imperial surname. I paused for a moment, pursed my lips, and somewhat awkwardly poked his arm. So what's your name then? Having held high authority for so long, he probably hadn't been asked his name so directly in ages. He opened his mouth, then hesitated as if struggling to say it, but still, they answered me. Ji Yang. My mind exploded with a thunderous roar. Ji Yang. Isn't this the 9th prince born of the noble consort? Before the noble consort's affair, he was the emperor's most favored prince, round as a ball yet exceptionally fair-skinned, like a glutinous rice snowball. I used to love teasing him. After the noble consort's affair, he became a prince of dubious lineage, banished to the cold palace to fend for himself. Out of kindness, I sent him a few quilts and begged my aunt the Empress Dowager to look after him somewhat. But after that we had no further connection. Him, how did he become so thin now? I almost didn't recognize you. You're completely different from before. Perhaps my astonishment was too obvious. He looked at me calmly. I know what you want to say. Shut your mouth. This sovereign doesn't wish to hear it. I pursed my lips. All this sovereign here and this sovereign there would saying I burn his tongue. Even an emperor would get gossiped about by his ministers if he went around calling himself we all day long. My father had privately mocked this at home many times, saying the emperor was putting on airs. I scratched my head and chuckled sheepishly. Two little treasures approached, standing properly to pay their respects, their tender voices calling out, "Greetings, Father King and Mother Consort." The girl was as lovely as jade and snow, with two spiral buns atop her head adorned with jade crabapple blossoms, dressed in pink robes, her eyes like glazed glass. The boy still wore a serious expression, holding an unfinished book scroll in his hand. His small python robe was neatly pressed, his face still bearing the innocence of childhood. I watched them with fresh curiosity. Truth be told, it still doesn't feel quite real. I actually gave birth to two such big children. Perhaps my gaze was too intense. The boy turned his face away uncomfortably, while the girl took small steps forward, wringing her hands nervously. She looked up and said, "Mother, may I have a hug?" I was stunned. It's not that I'm unwilling, but in my eyes, a child wanting to hug their mother is something that should never require asking. Just like how no matter how old I grow, I can always nestle into my mother's embrace whenever I please. But why are these two children? I bent down and picked up the porcelain doll-like little girl, pressing my cheek against hers and nuzzling gently. "Of course you can, sweetheart. You can hug me whenever you want, for as long as you want. Mother, mother." She trembled in my arms, her small body shaking as she sobbed and called out mother over and over again. My heart ached suddenly. A wave of bitterness welled up from deep within, along with overwhelming guilt and shame. Though memories are lost, the brain still retains its instincts. I love these two children dearly, I'm certain of it. But if that love exists, why deliberately turn a blind eye? Qingping said I don't like them, wish I'd never given birth to them, am indifferent to them, never prepared birthday gifts for them, and even prefer my elder brother's nephew over them. But, Shinger, Ji Yang got out of bed, patted the girl's head, and said in a somber tone, "Wipe your face and let's eat. Your mother is hungry, okay." The girl was very obedient. Sniffling, she climbed off me, let the palace maid wipe her face clean, and then climbed onto a specially made stool to sit properly. The boy did the same. I also sat down, though originally preoccupied with worries. I couldn't help but exclaim wow at the sight of the sumptuous feast spread across the table. All I can think about is food right now. No matter how important things are, They'll have to wait until I finish eating. Huh. This looks like radish but tastes like chicken. This peony is actually carved from radish. So intricate. This chicken soup is delicious. And these buns are amazing too. Oh my goodness. This is absolutely delicious. I've never had such a wonderful meal before. I must go see the chef tomorrow to find out what kind of genius could make xiaolong babo this delicious. Excited, I kept commenting between bites. The room was filled with my incessant chatter. The other three, even the palace attendants standing nearby, remained completely silent, serving dishes, arranging plates, without making a single sound. I didn't think anything was wrong at first, until the palace maid serving behind Ji Yang couldn't help but speak up. Your Highness, the Crown Prince dislikes people speaking during meals. I froze for a moment, then belatedly scratched my head in realization. Am I talking too much? At our family dinner table, there's always been lively conversation, discussing the food, friends, and amusing anecdotes. Otherwise, what's the point of just eating in silence? But I also understand the need to respect his habits, so I reluctantly put down my chopsticks. Then I won't eat with you anymore, so I don't annoy you. His chopsticks paused mid-air, the bamboo shoot tip glistening with moisture. Emerald green against the light, placing the shoot on his plate, he wiped his hands before turning to me. I said nothing. Didn't you dislike people talking during meals? He took a deep breath and waved his hand. Immediately, golden-armored guards with swords emerged from the side and dragged away the talkative palace maid. I was left utterly dumbfounded. But, she, 30 lashes, then send her to the punishment bureau. He placed another steamed bun on my plate and said gently, I know you're kind-hearted, don't worry, we won't take her life. I hesitated to speak. Ji Yang interrupted me. You are now the regent's consort. Your dignity is not to be violated, whether right or wrong. It is not for a mere palace maid to challenge. Do not plead for her. He paused, his gaze softening as he said, moreover, I never believed you were in the wrong to begin with. Perhaps he thought speaking a little more wouldn't be such a bad thing. The vast regent's mansion was too quiet. Silent as a deserted palace even with children present, it didn't feel like a home, which is to say, it precisely needed a chatterbox beauty like me to liven things up. I stopped trying to persuade him, proudly lifting my chin like a victorious rooster. I chuckled and eagerly placed a steamed dumpling in his bowl. Try it, it's really delicious. I just noticed that this person eats far too little, just a few grains of rice with each bite of the chopsticks. Showing little interest in the feast spread across the table. You shouldn't treat your body like this. Try it, it's really delicious. I opened my big eyes wide, gazing at him eagerly and full of anticipation. Under the pressure of my sparkling gaze, he stiffly picked up the soup dumpling, ate it in small bites, then rigidly set down his chopsticks and nodded, saying, delicious. Suddenly, choked sobs came from beside us. It was actually the oldest butler present, a white-haired elderly man. Your Highness hasn't eaten with such appetite in a long time. This old servant is overjoyed to see it. He scampered out with small, quick steps, leaving everyone in the room utterly bewildered. I hesitated to speak. Ji Yang rubbed his forehead and explained, Uncle Ju is a bit sentimental by nature. Don't take it to heart. Oh, I nodded, rolled my eyes playfully, then ladled him another bowl of soup and eagerly presented it to him with a beaming smile. Then to make the old man happy, dear husband, please eat a little more. After finishing the meal, I rubbed my full belly contentedly, thinking of returning to my own courtyard, but somehow, I got lost along the way. The regent's estate was so vast, the pathways were pitifully empty, with not even a palace servant in sight to ask for directions. I wandered aimlessly, following the peony bushes along the path, unsure of where I was going, until I came upon a rock garden. Behind the rock garden stood a man dressed in white robes, hands clasped behind his back as he watched me with a gentle smile. I breathed a sigh of relief. Perfect, someone to ask for directions. I lifted my skirt and ran toward him. The smile on his face grew even brighter as he spread his arms, even striking a pose as if to pull me into an embrace. He slightly closed his eyes, his expression utterly intoxicated. Something felt off. My steps slowed as I ran, and I stared at his face for a long while before hesitantly saying, Shinzui. That so-called childhood sweetheart cousin of mine, the man Qingping called my first husband, the adulterer whom Ji Yang loathed to the bone, yet could do nothing about. Truth be told, I didn't really like him that much, though he was decent looking and came from a good family, in the capital teeming with nobility. He wasn't particularly outstanding. As the capital's reigning beauty, I naturally had high standards, even though we grew up together. I intended to keep him waiting while I carefully weighed my options. I couldn't have imagined that I'd fall so desperately in love with him, willing to become a mere skeleton of myself and elope. But these were thoughts for another time. The pressing matter now was, how did he get in? The Regent's palace was supposedly guarded as tightly as an iron barrel, with fierce imperial guards armed with swords stationed at every corner, recalling the deserted path where no one answered my calls earlier. And the gloomy expression on Ji Yang's face when I left. In an instant, I understood. That damn dog is testing me. He still doesn't believe I've genuinely lost my memory. Perhaps he thinks I'm still deceiving him, using sweet words to lower his guard, just waiting for the right moment to escape. I ground my teeth. My dear. Seeing that I didn't rush forward, Shanzui opened his eyes with some confusion. He hurried over and asked in a low voice, "Did you get the tiger tally?" "The tiger tally, exactly. The tiger tally." Ji Yang harbors wolfish ambitions, manipulating the young emperor from behind the scenes in an attempt to usurp the throne, a crime that deserves no pardon. The Shun and Shui families have always been loyal to the throne. We absolutely cannot let him succeed. He gripped my arm tightly. "My darling, just get me the tiger tally and I'll take you away. By then, Ji Yang will be dead, and we'll travel across this magnificent land together, no more regrets." But his defenses are impenetrable. Where could I possibly find the tiger tally? It's impossible. I waved my hand dismissively and turned to leave. He grabbed my wrist again, his voice urgent. "Last time you clearly said the tiger tally was hidden in a secret compartment in his study, that you'd already found its location and would retrieve it soon. Why can't you do it now?" Realizing he'd been too impatient, he softened his expression and lowered his voice. "My love, I'm doing this for our future. Only when Ji Yang dies can we be together freely. He merely treats you as a plaything, a courtesan. Don't be deceived by him. I alone am your true match, the one who genuinely cares for you. Do you understand?" I smiled somewhat awkwardly, didn't know what to say. Ji Yang must be watching from some dark corner right now. Wouldn't be surprised if he's already planned how both of us will die. If I had truly intended to betray him, that would be one thing. But now, with all memories of the past gone, I feel an inexplicable grievance at being wrongfully accused. I sighed. "You've really changed." "What? You've gotten fatter, your face is rounder. I can see your double chin now, and your belly's grown bigger too. You should eat less in daily life." He instinctively straightened his back and sucked in his stomach, letting out a fart in the process. The smile on his face nearly faltered. "Why are you suddenly saying this?" "Ching ching, if you truly wanted to take me away, why would you use the tiger tally as a bargaining chip? If you don't want to take me away, why keep stringing me along?" I came to the conclusion. "So, you're using me to get the tiger tally and vie for a share of the credit in supporting the new emperor." His face twisted in an instant. I didn't want to talk to him anymore. His current hideous appearance and shoddy schemes made me feel like my pre-amnesia self must have been cursed. It was deeply unsettling. I turned to leave, but he grabbed my wrist with an iron grip and refused to let go. "Darling, you can't do this, we had an agreement." Swish, an arrow shot out with lightning speed from behind the rockery, piercing through his arm and bone. The tremendous force sent him staggering backward, pinning him against the banyan tree behind him as he let out a scream like a slaughtered pig. Gushing blood soaked half my robe, while the sound of shattering bones echoed repeatedly. Ji Yang emerged slowly from behind the rockery. Her gaze was clear and sharp, yet she didn't seem angry at all, cheerfully waving at me. "Come here." I blinked, feeling both a little scared and somewhat annoyed. Gritting my teeth and stomping my foot, I shouted at him. "Don't you know how to treat a lady with tenderness and care? Can a beauty bear the sight of blood? So much blood, how filthy. This dress is ruined too." I really didn't want to deal with him. Instead, he chuckled softly and walked towards me, wiping the blood droplets from my cheek with his fingertip. The voice was low and hoarse. "I don't care if you've truly lost your memory or if you're pretending to deceive me. Things are fine as they are now, if you keep up this act. I can guarantee your elder brother's path to success." He leaned in close, capturing my lips between his teeth and grinding them. as if chewing on a piece of meat, right in front of so many people. He made obscene smacking sounds with intoxicated delight. I tried to push him away in shame and anger. Instead, he held me tighter with force. Gone was his earlier dominance. Now he trembled, helpless, desperate, and sobbed in despair. I admit it, do whatever you want. Take whatever revenge you desire, I'll accept it all, even if it's a lie. Could you at least keep pretending for a little longer? Darling, have mercy on me, don't leave me. Without you, I would truly die. As he held me in his arms, I blinked, about to speak, when Shinzui beside us let out muffled cries for help. I instinctively glanced in the direction of the sound. Ji Yang let out a cold laugh. He raised his hand and swung the blade. The knife tip plunged into the tree. Right beside Shinzui's neck. Shinzui's eyes rolled back as he passed out, terrified into incontinence. Dark stains spread across his trousers. What are you looking at him for? Still thinking about him? Still planning to elope with him? Let me tell you, keep dreaming. If you make me unhappy, I'll kill him. If you're going to deceive me, you'd better deceive me for a lifetime. Otherwise, his mood darkened again, his gaze suddenly turning fierce. His pitch-black eyes stared unblinkingly at me, like a starving beast with gleaming green eyes, greedy and obsessive. I coughed. Don't be so fierce. The imperial physician said you mustn't get angry. What if your wound splits open again? He looked at me coldly, watching me raise my head. I smiled sweetly at him, softening my voice, coquettish and tender, calling out in a sugary tone, "Husband Tilda, don't you dare seduce me." His breathing grew rapid as he sharply turned his profile to the side, speaking with difficulty. "You, don't tempt me. I won't kill him now." I paused, nearly laughing. If he can't handle this, what'll happen when I really use those seduction techniques from the romance novels? He'll go completely mad. After all, the storybooks I've read are filled with lines like spreading fair legs, beckoning the gentleman to revel in the pleasures of the clouds and rain. I pretended to look aggrieved. "I didn't seduce you. I'm a proper girl from a good family. My lord, don't slander me." My fingertips traced his handsome face, from the flushed corners of his eyes, over the pert tip of his nose, down to his parched lips. I licked my lips. "Husband, may I pat your head?" "No." He turned away uncomfortably. "Don't pet me like I'm a dog. You're my husband. How could you be a dog?" I tugged at his arm, pleading, "Husband, I want to touch you, please." He pursed his lips and glanced nervously at the imperial guards surrounding us, with so many people watching. "Don't you, husband, lower your head, I can't reach the top." His voice suddenly stopped. After a long pause, he took a deep breath, glared at me with resentment, his beautiful eyes full of grievance, and reluctantly lowered his head, a little lower. "I still can't reach. Don't you dare push your luck." He looked up angrily, only to meet my sparkling eyes. His unfinished words stuck in his throat. The displeasure in his gaze instantly melted away, replaced by an indescribable mix of bashfulness and delight. "Fine, I won't argue with you," he muttered as he lowered his head, bending over like a big bear, revealing his fuzzy crown before me. He whispered in a pitifully small voice, "You always bully me, just like that chubby little dumpling I used to tease long ago," glaring fiercely and issuing stern warnings. Yet ultimately having no choice but to indulge me as I pinch his cheeks into an O shape. I burst out laughing. The little one twirled triumphantly in their heart. A beauty is always surrounded by a crowd of admirers. How to make each of them feel uniquely favored without causing internal strife is an essential skill for any beauty. And I happen to be the most peerless beauty among beauties. Teaching him a lesson, easy as pie, I begged Ji Yang to go out with me. I was initially puzzled by how readily he agreed, until 4 horse-drawn carriages departed the mansion, flanked by 2 teams of imperial guards with gleaming blades, solemn and imposing. I was speechless but said nothing, deciding to visit the jewelry shop first. "Is Her Highness selecting gifts for the princess and the young master?" Noticing my good mood, the palace maid cautiously brought it up. "The young mistress and young master are twins, last year on their birthday. You didn't attend their celebration, and the 2 little ones were upset for quite some time." My hand paused while selecting a hairpin. "When is their birthday?" "It's next month." I pursed my lips, picking out 2 jade hairpins in the shop, yet feeling the gesture wasn't heartfelt enough. Recalling the peachwood hairpin I'd carved by hand as a child, Perhaps I should go back and make one for each of them myself. Just as I stepped out of the shop, I heard a familiar, crisp voice calling, "Ching Ching." It was my dearest childhood friend, Du Yuyaro. She ran towards me, linked her arm with mine, and leaned close to my ear. Before I could speak, she anxiously blurted out first, "You've finally left the manor. If you hadn't come out soon, I would have gone to the Regent's palace to look for you. What about that lover of yours I've been hiding? My husband is about to find out. When are you taking him away?" The nostalgic small talk I was about to utter froze on my lips. I felt as if struck by lightning. I knew all too well that beauties must have their own fish ponds. The number of fish in the pond serves as proof of a beauty's charm, but that doesn't mean a beautiful woman, after choosing a high-ranking and powerful husband, should still cuckold him. She would really be drowned in a pig cage. I sat dazedly in the tavern, staring at the man kneeling before me, the one Du Yuyaro had brought over. His demeanor was gentle and delicate. Frail and slender, with a waist so narrow one could almost encircle it with a single hand, his eyes brimmed with tears, evoking pity in anyone who saw him. I don't know his background either. I only remember that half a year ago, you brought him to me and begged me to take good care of him, saying he was someone very important to you. Du Yuyaro spread her hands. Now I've brought him to you. It's your call. My husband has grown suspicious and started investigating that villa. I really can't keep hiding him for you anymore. With that, she stood up and left in a flustered hurry, as if she'd just gotten rid of a hot potato. I steadied my nerves, picked up the teacup, and took a sip. "You, madam, it's been so long since you last sought me out. Have you forgotten about me?" His eyes brimmed with tears as he sobbed and prostrated himself, crawling toward me. While crawling, he began undressing, his slender fingers unbuttoning his clothes to reveal a pale chest. "I know full well that only this body of mine can barely keep you, my lady. I beg for your mercy." My fingers had already begun to tremble, looking at how practiced he is. Could it be that he and I have already slept together? "My lady." He knelt beside me, his hips raised high, his waist sunken, forming a beautiful curve, like a little fox. He nuzzled my palm with his cheek in infatuation. "This humble one knows well that your love for elder brother runs deep, and has never dared to imagine replacing his place in your heart. I only hope you'll treat this humble one a little kinder. Even if I were to die, I'd do so willingly." His brother. I'm completely numb at this point, dazedly uttered an "oh, so, I'm also having an affair with your brother. How could it be a personal affair?" His breathing suddenly became rapid. "You and my brother were deeply in love, but it was that Regent, that shameless and despicable villain, who took my brother's life." He wept bitterly, his tears falling like pear blossoms in the rain. She pressed her fair, bare legs against me, her slender fingers clutching tightly at my skirt, her expression both pleading and pitiful. "Before my brother passed, his greatest concern was for this humble servant. Madam, I beg you to give this servant one chance to serve you in the pleasures of the bedchamber. This servant surely would not compare poorly to that brute of a regent." I glanced at his frail body, wondering if it could withstand even a single punch from Ji Yang. Headache, nothing but headache. What to do? Because I'm too beautiful. Every man thinks we're mutually in love. The twin brothers fought over me. Even after the elder brother's death, he still couldn't forget me. "Wait, who died?" I grabbed his arm. "You said your brother was killed by whom?" "That damned Regent." I suddenly let go, sitting on the ground in a daze. At the same time, the golden-armored guard's boots clattered against the tavern floorboards as they kicked open the room door with ferocious menace. He burst in, yanked the man who was sobbing on top of me to the ground, pressed his head against the floor, and smacked his bare buttocks with the hilt of his sword, a gesture dripping with humiliation. A pair of boots embroidered with golden pythons came into view. Ji Yang crouched down, pinched my chin with his fingertips, his gaze dark and brooding. "Why can't you just behave?" His voice was faint, almost ethereal, like someone murmuring in the throes of unbearable pain. "Do I really have to kill him too, for you to stay quietly by my side? Wasn't it wrong that you didn't kill his brother?" I grabbed his arm, trembling as I asked, like clutching at the last lifeline. "It's him who's slandering you. You didn't." "No, of course not." He curled his lips into a smile, the madness and obsession in his eyes gradually materializing, engulfing me in an abyss of insanity and despair. His fingertips traced along my brow bone, moving downward inch by inch. My darling, I didn't just kill his brother, I've killed many others. But what else could I do? You're so fond of flirting, and every man you meet falls hopelessly for you. How else could I keep you by my side? The only way was to kill them all, pluck out their eyes, turn them into beads, and string them into a necklace as a gift for you. Only when you're terrified will you finally obey. The smile on his face grew increasingly tender, yet he took a bold step forward, his legs trapping my waist as he reached to untie the jade belt at his hip. Kneeling down, his fingertips traced lingering circles across my chest while murmuring with intimate tenderness, "My darling, what could those wild men outside possibly offer you? You're always so disobedient." The Imperial guards in the room had vanished without a trace at some point. Ji Yang wrapped his arms around my waist, his fingers emerging from the heavy folds of my dress, glistening with thick, bright saliva. He placed them in his mouth, licked them clean, then let out a satisfied sigh. My face flushed crimson as I was pressed against his lap, my chest heaving, the corners of my eyes misty and glistening with bright streaks, whether tears or sweat, I couldn't tell, yet beneath it all lay nothing but confusion and despair. "Now I understand why I hated you," I whispered softly, but perhaps I hated myself even more. I was born with a flirtatious and vivacious nature, and blessed with extraordinary beauty. Everyone who met me fell under my spell. If I were a man, I would surely enjoy the bliss of having 3 wives and 4 concubines. Alas, I am but a woman. Alas, I can choose but one husband. So I learned to walk through a garden of flowers without a single petal clinging to me. Seduction became my habit. I never took the initiative to sever another's amorous thoughts. As long as they didn't speak plainly, it remained an ambiguous affair beyond clear explanation. Even if they grew angry in the end, it was their own delusion first, nothing they could openly accuse me of. I reaped many benefits from this. I never imagined someone would die because of it, nor did I ever think there could be a madman like Ji Yang, utterly unreasonable, who would slaughter indiscriminately like a rabid dog. All for that fleeting, intangible ambiguity. I hate him, and because of the profound guilt, I came to hate myself. So I starved myself, self-harmed, and lived as miserably as an ascetic, running away, stealing the tiger tally, stabbing him. It felt less like escaping and more like forcing Ji Yang to kill me. Back then, my hands were drenched in blood and sin. Living each day in agony as if being fried in oil, I truly didn't want to live anymore. I opened my mouth and chomped down hard on Ji Yang's exposed shoulder, wishing I could tear off a chunk of his flesh. Damn bastard, wretched thing, killing people as easily as chopping melons and slicing vegetables. If not for the heavy burden of injustice he placed upon me, would I have forsaken my noble position as the revered Princess Regent to seek death? Damn, 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 damn. I bit until it bled, but still couldn't vent my anger. My gaze drifted downward, narrowing at that spot said to be a man's most vulnerable place. That thing looked so soft, just a lump of flesh, probably easy to bite off. Ji Yang instinctively clenched his thighs together. He pulled me by the waist, pinning me against his chest, and glared at me fiercely as he warned, "Get all those messy thoughts out of your head," I sneered. Jerking my head upward to headbutt him hard, he chuckled, ruffled my hair, and roughly tore open his clothes. We made a ruckus in the private room of the restaurant for a whole day and night. I kept cursing at him. I cursed him for only knowing brute force, cursed him for his poor technique, cursed him for being like a bear, showing no tenderness at all. My voice grew hoarse from shouting, and I ended up sobbing, burying my face in his chest while sniffling and wiping away tears. What should I do? I think I might truly be a bad person. I know Ji Yang is wicked, know he's killed many people, and know many have died because of me. But now I've lost my memory, I can't recall their names, their faces, or how they died. That overwhelming guilt that once brought me to the brink of death, I can no longer feel it. I only wanted to live a life of wealth and splendor, wearing the most beautiful clothes and the most luxurious hairpins. I'm just a vulgar beauty, nothing more. It seems my conscience has been eaten by dogs. Dejected, I sat nestled in Ji Yang's embrace, our skin touching, as I scratched my head in confusion. They are indeed innocent, but I don't want to make myself miserable either. I just want to live a good life. What on earth should I do? Ji Yang tilted his head and said softly, "Then just forget about it. They're just some unimportant people. If you don't like them and don't care about them, why be sad for them? I stared at him for a moment, then turned my head away in frustration. This fool who kills as easily as chopping vegetables doesn't understand my inner turmoil and sorrow at all. Disdainfully picking through the items on the ground, he selected a relatively clean outer robe and wrapped me up like a zongza, then took me back to the manor under cover of night. That man, don't worry, this prince won't kill that male fox spirit. Ji Yang pushed my head, which I had struggled to free, back under the quilt and warned me in a hoarse voice, my consort should behave, or else, another life will be added to my hands. Furious, I slapped him and pointed at the door, shouting for him to get out. After he left, I curled up under the quilt, pouting and sighing. I don't think all these things can be entirely blamed on me. Men fighting and even killing each other over a beauty's favor is truly tragic. But it's those foolish men who can't help falling for me. What can I possibly do about it? Can you really blame me for being born this beautiful and this lovable? Still too much conscience, that's why you feel guilty. After all, beauties like me, gorgeous, kind-hearted, adorable, and blessed with the compassion of a bodhisattva, are truly a rare sight these days. I let out a faint sigh. I locked myself in the room for several days, tinkering away until I finally finished crafting the hairpin just before my two treasures' birthday. The small pear blossom hairpin, though not exquisitely crafted, carries sincere affection. The manor had long prepared a lavish feast. The girl wore a large red velvet flower on her head, her face lightly made up with a dot of vermilion at the center of her forehead. The boy still had that same mature demeanor, now dressed in a new python robe with a delicate jade belt fastened at his waist. She casually twirled in front of me, and upon receiving my compliment as she'd hoped, a faint smile finally appeared on her little face. I took out the peachwood hairpins and pinned them into their hair. The two little ones laughed happily. That's more like it. I stroked the boy's head, gazing fondly at his tender little face. You're still so young. You should play more, laugh more. Studying all day long is too hard a life. I don't find it hard, father. You said that only by studying more can I protect mother and my younger sister in the future. Hunger touched the hairpin on her head, her voice soft yet resolute. I wish to grow up quickly, to share the burdens of my father the king and my mother. I was stunned, turning to look at Ji Yang beside me. I realized he had also changed his clothes today, the white robe, embroidered with golden python patterns in subtle relief, framed his striking features with an alluring charm that held a peculiar fascination under the dim lighting. According to the palace maids, I had previously shown little concern for our two children, leaving all aspects of their daily care to Ji Yang's management. Despite being the formidable regent, he played both father and mother roles. Many ministers advised him to divorce me and remarry, or take a virtuous maiden as concubine, yet he paid them no heed. I beckoned, calling my two precious ones to come near. The birthday gifts prepared were two sets of scholars' treasures, fine Hui inkstones and brushes suited to their stature, showing considerable thoughtfulness, a bright, luminous moon, the shadow of a body tree, a family of 4. My eyes suddenly stung with unshed tears. After 3 rounds of drinks, Ji Yang excused himself to attend to prior matters. Xing'e gazed at his retreating figure and murmured, "Today was the happiest birthday Xing'e and brother have ever spent together. Even if mother leaves in the future, with this birthday memory, Xing'e will never feel lonely again." Why say such a thing out of the blue? I looked up in confusion, hearing Hunger's soft voice. "Does mother want to leave father?" He looked up at me with a serious expression. "If you wish, my sister and I can help you. We can feign illness to delay father, giving you time to leave the city." So shocked was I that I accidentally knocked over the wine glass beside me. The drunken haze around me dissipated completely. Back then, mother was never happy living in the prince's mansion. Xing'e's eyes reddened as she threw herself into my arms, saying with solemn gravity, "We all wish for mother to be happy, even if it means being apart from father, brother, and Xing'e. I know mother doesn't like us. Thank you for everything during this time." Her voice was soft, slightly hoarse, carrying a sorrow that seemed too heavy for a 5-year-old. At that moment, I realized, just like Ji Yang, they had never believed in my amnesia, a new means of escape, a vicious and cruel deception. Yet they still wish for my happiness. They want their mother to be happy. I remained silent, picking up hunger as well, seating one child on each knee. She bent down and gently kissed both precious children. Mother won't leave, and also, my darlings, Mother loves you both very much, no matter what happens between me and your father. It won't affect my love for you. Let's forget what happened before. Here, Mother apologizes to both of you. Will you forgive Mother? Both children froze for a moment. A child who receives no comfort can still remain strong, but once comforted, they can't help but pour out their grievances. Hunger held back slightly better, stubbornly maintaining his little man's dignity, unwilling to lose composure. Star burst into tears. Why doesn't Mother like us, when we've been so good at school? All the other children have clothes made by their mothers, only Brother and I don't, nor do we have snacks prepared by Mother. She wouldn't even come for our birthdays. Brother and I dressed up so carefully that day, but Mother wouldn't even look at us. Tears fell scalding hot upon my legs and chest, mingling with the choked, sorrowful sobs of two children. My heart was breaking. I held them close, whispering comforts through my own tears as we wept together. The pure moonlight spilled across the flagstone-paved ground. The two children, exhausted from crying, nestled in my arms and fell asleep clutching my arms, my body slightly stiff. I shook my head and looked up. There stood Ji Yang, hands clasped behind his back, in the shadows by the moon gate, gazing down at me with cold indifference. Who knew for how long? I don't know what he's thinking. These were the children he had forced me to bear. All these years, I've suffered, the child has suffered. As for him, has he truly been at ease either? Fresh from my bath, I emerged to find Ji Yang sitting on the couch in white sleeping robes, lazily propping up his leg as his vacant gaze wandered over the golden canopy above. Drying my hair, I walked over and settled beside his legs. After a moment's hesitation, I poked him and asked, all these years, after snatching me away to live this chaotic life, do you regret it? He chuckled softly, reaching out to lift me onto his lap. His arms encircled my waist as he buried his face against my neck, taking a deep breath, muttering to himself, I learned of your marriage while still stationed at the northern frontier camp, fresh from a great victory. What did I feel in that moment? Ching-ching. You'll never understand, though everyone around me was cheering, leaping for joy, dancing. My heart felt so cold, as if a gaping hole had been torn through it, howling with icy winds. I thought I was going to lose you, right then. I swore that if I survived to return, I would seize you back home. Even if I couldn't win your heart, I'd keep your person by force. The mere thought of you showing tender affection to another man made me unable to restrain myself. I'd flay that man alive before your eyes, slice by excruciating slice. His gaze was fierce and ruthless. I closed my eyes, feeling an inevitable sorrow. My family has been scholars for generations. Even our dogs were raised on literature. We've never seen bloodshed. Yet here in your regent's residence, we've been burdened with so many wrongful sins. My voice was filled with sorrow. But there's one thing I dare not say. Strangely enough, I feel grateful that Ji Yang, that lunatic, despite having killed so many men connected to me, never raised his butcher's blade against my family. Some time ago, I went home to visit my parents and elder brother. Father has aged, his temples and beard gone white. The stern face that once ordered me to kneel in the ancestral hall now bears only wrinkles carved by time, softened with kindness and tenderness. They all advised me to stop making a fuss. The Shui family has received great favor from the regent, rising swiftly in the court. I already have 2 children, and they are his only heirs. What more could I possibly want? Ji Yang's body froze. After a long pause, he said in a low voice, I'm sorry. If given another chance, I wouldn't use such extreme methods again. If the beginning of the story hadn't been so tragic, could we have had a different ending? No one knows. He only regretted it a little, that's all. He had endured the desolate cold palace, stood on battlefields littered with corpses, and seen more dead people than I've ever seen living ones. To him, the laws and decrees of the kingdom meant nothing. Now I regret it only because I've realized how much it truly bothers me. I didn't kill that many people. He gripped my fingers, using all his strength to explain, it's just at the beginning, because of the GU poison and madness, I couldn't control it, and you were so determined to leave then, ignoring me for it. So alright, stop talking. I covered his mouth, saying wearily and helplessly, As long as you don't kill anyone again. No, as long as you don't kill people out of some inexplicable jealousy. Let's just leave it at that. What else could I do? Call me despicable. Call me cowardly. I cannot bear to part with Hanger and Shinger, nor can I forsake the wealth and splendor of the Regent's household. I don't want to die. I want to live well, to enjoy a good life, to become the most noble woman in this world, to possess all the wealth and glory this world has to offer. On the day of the Mid-Autumn Festival, the Emperor died suddenly. Many people came and went from the Regent's residence, all clad in armor, solemn and imposing. The 2 children were also brought to my courtyard, lying on the study desk reading storybooks. The already small courtyard was tightly surrounded by hundreds of imperial guards. I sat on the soft couch, feeling my heart about to leap out of my chest. Winner takes all, loser takes the fall. It all comes down to this night. Whether I can become the Empress, no, whether I can even survive, depends entirely on tonight. That night, I sat by the bedside, watching over 2 sleeping children. My eyes open until dawn. I can't sleep. Suddenly, I wanted to see Ji Yang. Though he too was a fearsome deity, it seemed that by his side, no evil could intrude, and all schemes and plots need not be feared. At dawn the next day, a eunuch in crimson robes from the palace arrived with a beaming smile, saying he had come to escort Her Majesty the Empress, His Highness the Crown Prince, and Her Highness the Princess into the palace. The old nurse was also grinning from ear to ear, yet out of courtesy. She engaged in polite exchanges with the eunuch. His Majesty has yet to appoint an Empress or Crown Prince, so our Princess Consort dare not presume too much. Why wouldn't she dare? The eunuch fawned with a beaming smile. Who in the capital doesn't know of His Majesty's deep affection for Her Majesty the Queen? As for the position of Queen, aside from Her Majesty, who else could possibly take it? The palace maids and eunuchs in the room all wore beaming smiles. With their mistress thriving, they could stand tall and look forward to bright futures. How could they not smile? Dressed in my robes with sleeves gathered, I stood outside the carriage watching the palace servants bustling about, moving things to and fro. Qingping secretly ran out and came to my side, kneeling down to beg me, "Miss, please take me into the palace with you. This servant doesn't want to be left behind in the Regent's residence." After noticing her disloyalty that day, I had transferred her to work in the outer courtyard, intending to have a proper talk with her once I regained some memories. After all, Qingping had grown up with me since childhood, and our bond was different from that with other maids. Today she wore the pale pink dress I gave her, with a begonia velvet flower pinned in her hair, one I made myself as a birthday gift for her. Her eyes brimmed with tears, red-rimmed as she gazed at me, looking just like the little girl who used to sneak sweets with me in childhood. I sighed. "You may come along." Qingping happily wiped away her tears. The matron disapproved. "Your Highness, that girl has ulterior motives. I fear she may bring you harm. Over these 10 years, there aren't many elders left by my side, only her. I can't bear to abandon her." I felt somewhat melancholy. She doesn't know martial arts, so have the hidden guards keep an eye on her from afar. Once we enter the palace, I'll have a proper talk with her and find her a place to stay. "Don't worry, Nanny." I insisted on doing so, and the nanny stopped trying to persuade me. In the carriage, both children were quiet. Shinger had been so engrossed in storybooks last night that she still held 2 unfinished ones in her arms. Utterly enchanted by the tales of gifted scholars and beautiful ladies, Hanger wanted to snatch the storybooks from her hands. I don't understand why my little sister is so fond of stories about aristocratic ladies falling in love at first sight with stable boys, even eloping to be together. Her childish face wore a worried expression as she threatened sternly, "If you don't give it to me, I'll tell father that you want to elope with a stable boy." Shinger wasn't the least bit afraid and clung tightly to her storybook, refusing to let go. "These are Mother's books. Mother didn't even look at them before eloping with the stable boy, so why would I? Brother is being so unreasonable." Hanger froze, giving me a resentful look, clearly wanting to speak but not daring to. Crossing his arms in a huff, he stopped talking. I licked my lips and coaxed those 2 misleading romance novels out of Shinger's hands, laughing awkwardly. "Indeed, it's not suitable. Don't read this. Mother will find you some other books to read. Be a good dear, Tilda. I just remembered this now. When I was little, My family strictly forbade me from reading these licentious tales of gifted scholars and beautiful ladies. Now that I'm grown, I don't see anything wrong with them. But Xinga is still young. If she really develops fondness for horse-grooms from reading these, I'll probably get an earful from Ji Yang. I clutched my chest, my heart filled with trepidation, still feeling relieved. Fortunately, those collector's edition Spring Palace paintings were hidden well enough that the two children didn't manage to dig them out. Otherwise, Ji Yang would probably have actually killed me. The carriage drove straight to the Peppercorn Palace, supported by the nurse. I stepped down and gazed upon the golden roofs and vermilion walls before me, where glazed tiles reflected the sunlight, and the upturned eaves with their intricate brackets seemed to stretch out like claws, exuding an air of nobility and extravagance. Once, as a daughter of a distinguished family of scholars, I had knelt in prostration outside these very halls. Now, I was about to become the mistress of this palace, receiving the greetings of concubines and noble women. What unparalleled dignity and grandeur! A surge of excitement welled up within me, stirring my heart. Silently pressing a hand to my chest, I took a deep breath, forcing myself to calm my racing thoughts. Just as I was about to enter, I heard Qingping's anxious voice calling from not far away. "Miss." She wanted to come to me but was stopped by the imperial guards. I let her in and, looking at her sweat-beaded face full of anxiety, asked in puzzlement, "What's the matter, miss?" She raised her eyes and looked at me pleadingly. The next second, a dagger suddenly appeared in her sleeve. Her gaze turned fierce as she strode forward, pressing the blade against my neck. "Go find Ji Yang," she barked at the stunned onlookers, her wrist flexing as the dagger drew a thin line of blood across my throat. "Otherwise, I'll kill her." The moment I was taken hostage, I could tell this person wasn't Qingping. Her hands were larger, rougher, with thick calluses at the base of her thumb, clearly the marks of long martial arts training. My heart pounded wildly. Not far away, two children stared with wide, terrified eyes. Hunger took a step forward, clenching his fists as if to say something, but was pulled back by the shadow guard, who shook his head. The boy lowered his eyes dejectedly, his deliberately mature little face filled with sorrow. He felt he was still too young to protect those he wished to shield. The clanking of armor echoed at the entrance as Ji Yang hurried over, followed by generals in crimson official robes, all his trusted confidants. His gaze lingered on the faint bloodstains across my pale neck before he asked in a low voice, "What do you want?" The assassin laughed wildly, tilting his chin up as he pointed at Ji Yang's sword, venom and malice dripping from his words. "Use your own blade to kill yourself. Your life for hers." Everyone present was stunned, followed by a deathly silence. Whether palace servants or the civil and military officials following Ji Yang, they all turned away unwillingly, their gazes toward me tinged with pity. They didn't believe Ji Yang would die for a woman. She's just a woman. He's about to ascend the throne, with 3,000 beauties at his fingertips. Why should he abandon the empire his painstakingly schemed for, all for the sake of one woman? That's exactly what I think too. Beauties easily obtain love, but no matter how profound that love may be, it pales in comparison to life itself. Just like those gentlemen, the moment they realize loving me would cost them their lives, they'd surely keep their distance, not daring to take a single step closer. I just feel a bit regretful. Turning my gaze to the two exquisitely beautiful children, I stared at them greedily and longingly for a long time, silently saying sorry in my heart. "I'm sorry, my darlings. Mother won't be able to watch you grow up." Unexpectedly, Ji Yang drew his sword. The blade glinted coldly against the glazed tiles. Still smeared with unwashed blood, its edge notched from hacking through flesh, he lifted his gaze to meet mine, his eyes bloodshot from a sleepless night, his stubble-covered face weathered as he looked at me with something between resignation and resolve. At first, I didn't understand what he meant, until he turned the blade toward his own abdomen and drove it in, straight, unflinching, without hesitation. "Ji Yang, father." My limbs turned ice-cold in an instant, my body rigid. The surrounding air ceasing to flow, only the blade gradually sinking into flesh remained. The assassin stared unblinkingly, his dagger-wielding arm trembling, so agitated he could barely stand. Swish, a hail of arrows pierced through the air. The blade struck the assassin's arm, eye, and brain. I was suddenly dragged away by hidden guards who appeared out of nowhere. The assassin, who had let his guard down in his excitement, was ruthlessly shot to pieces by the furious imperial guards. Enraged by their lord's injury, Ji Yang's knife had only pierced halfway, yet the situation remained dire. The blade was too wide, wounding nearly half his abdomen. He staggered and collapsed onto his subordinate, vomiting a great mouthful of blood. The subordinate in crimson official robes shot me a grief-stricken and indignant glance, his expression one of suppressed fury. As if wanting to curse me as a femme fatale but not daring to, he hurried back and forth, calling for the imperial physician.
I pushed her into the arms of the palace maid, coaxed her with a few words, and told her to go back to sleep with her brother. Hunger stood not far away, watching me, shaking his head and sighing, giving me a look that said, "You're on your own, the children have all left." I carried a cup of water to Ji Yang's side, helped him drink, and casually changed the subject, trying to steer clear of the matter about the horse slave. Suddenly, Ji Yang pinned me down on the bed, through my clothes. He gave me 2 smacks on the bottom. "You can waste your time on those frivolous things yourself, but why show them to the child?" My face burned with shame. I wanted to argue, but held back for the sake of his injury. Blushing, I stood up and checked his wound. Relieved to see no fresh bleeding, Uncle Ju once said that without me, Ji Yang would have become a tyrant who took pleasure in killing. I truly believed it, and from that belief sprouted a savior's pride, always feeling rather smug, thinking I had bested Ji Yang and could order him around to my heart's content. Yet now, actually facing him, I shrank like a quail, not even daring to lift my head. Sitting by the bed, wringing my fingers, I suddenly felt the atmosphere had grown too quiet. It felt awkward, and I didn't quite dare to look at him. Strange, when I first lost my memory, even though I wasn't familiar with him, I could flirt without any psychological burden. But now, even speaking feels awkward. I secretly adjusted my clothes, straightened the crooked crabapple hairpin, and unconsciously turned my most flattering profile toward him. Then, ever so quietly, stole a glance in his direction. His pitch-black eyes were fixed intently on me, brimming with focus and earnestness. My cheeks grew even redder. "Goodness, you should rest properly. Why are you staring at me? I know I'm good-looking, but you can't just keep staring." After a moment's hesitation, he asked me, "What were you just squirming about? Got heat rash? Need some jade dew ointment?" Me, clueless fool. "Go ahead and stay single forever then." Qingping's body was discovered in the outskirts of the capital. Feeling somewhat stifled, I went to the temple and set up a memorial tablet for Qingping. Lighting a stick of incense, I also donated a considerable amount of incense money, even reserving a hall in the temple to enshrine many nameless tablets, as a way to atone for Ji Yang's sins of killing. Amid the curling smoke, I kowtowed 3 times, guiltily murmuring in my heart, "I'm sorry. In my next life, I'll serve as your ox or horse to repay you with my life. Call me selfish or morally corrupt. I only want to live my best life and be a majestic queen. I can't leave Ji Yang anymore." Whether it's for the child, power, or that vague, indescribable joy in my heart, I can't leave him now, because I don't want to leave. Even when he commits the most inhuman acts, I'll find excuses to justify them for him. I am just such a vain and wicked person. When I was leaving, the abbot of the temple handed me a string of consecrated prayer beads and chanted some unknown scripture over me for a long time. On the carriage ride back to the palace, I drowsily leaned against the carriage wall and fell asleep. Amidst the wafting sandalwood incense, my mind was a haze of confusion and blurriness. I fell gravely ill. The high fever persisted, leaving me unconscious for 5 days. Ji Yang suspended court sessions for several days, kneeling by my bedside with growing agitation, gradually revealing his tyrannical nature. All ministers who came for audience were dragged out and beaten with bamboo rods. Physicians who couldn't explain the cause of my illness were thrown into prison. His eyes were bloodshot as he knelt before my bed, choking back sobs to plead with me. "My love, won't you wake up? Don't frighten me like this. I truly can't bear it. I feel like killing someone." In that twilight between dreams and wakefulness, many memories came flooding back. I remembered that mad, tormented woman who would rather torture herself to the bone than yield to Ji Yang. She shook my shoulders frantically, choking with despair as she asked me, "Are you going to betray the pain of the past? So many lives, such profound suffering. How can you forget it all? How can you face your own conscience?" I have no choice either. I hugged my knees, curled up on the ground, and murmured softly, "I don't want to die. I don't want to suffer anymore. I don't want to live in guilt and torment every day. If being a bad person means living happily, then what's wrong with being bad? My 2 darlings need me. They love me dearly. The Empress's robes are beautiful, The jewelry is exquisite. When hundreds of noble women kneel before me, even the once arrogant princess who looked down on me must bow her head and kneel at my feet. My father was in theft as a marquis and appointed chancellor. My brother holds a third-rank official position. My family is the envy of every household in the capital. What reason do I have to change any of this? Once again, I convinced myself, lifting my gaze. I roared at her. Do you think torturing yourself, tormenting your children, and making everyone around you suffer is the only way to clear your conscience? The skeletal woman shook her head frantically, grinning hideously. She is me, yet not me. She has witnessed Ji Yang's cruelty, seen those bloody massacres, beheld those strings of crimson eyeballs. Hearing about it is different from seeing it with your own eyes. Should Ji Yang ever kill innocent people before me again, I too would become that desperate and deranged. Yet all those memories, I want to forget every single one. Since it's forgotten, let it be forgotten forever. Life is short, I just want to live up to myself. After waking up, I immediately had Ji Yang release all the imperial physicians who suffered this unjust calamity at Uncle Ju's reminder, bestowing gold and silver to properly console them. All officials who were unjustly caned were granted 100 taels of gold as consolation. After this incident, those officials who had daily submitted memorials urging Ji Yang to select concubines to enrich the imperial harem, and those ministers who had accused me of bewitching the emperor and disrupting court affairs, wisely fell silent. Instead, whenever something arose, they would send messages to the Pepper Chamber Palace. Often, it was simply, in the Golden Hall, Ji Yang was seething with rage, just about to order the imperial guards to drag the petitioning official away for execution when Her Majesty the Empress has arrived. Thus, those court officials who had been cursing me as a nation-wrecking enchantress suddenly began praying to every deity, wishing me robust health and a long life, at the very least, to outlive this king of hell. When I fell ill, they were all terrified out of their wits. Ginseng and deer antlers flowed like water into the palace, while the temples outside the capital were filled with the families of officials, each devoutly praying for the empress's swift recovery and eternal blessings. Some ignorant official submitted a memorial, urging the emperor to expand his harem. Before the petition could reach the central secretariat, it was intercepted by the handling officials, who gave the man a thorough beating. The man protested indignantly. His Majesty has only the crown prince as his heir, with the imperial lineage so thin. How can this be acceptable? Everyone thought it made sense. Dressed in phoenix robes, I smiled faintly. A child. Ji Yang could never have another child again, because long ago, after being forced to bear hanger and shinger, I secretly gave him a sterilizing drug. He may know, or he may not, I don't care either way. Empress Dowager, step by step, I will ascend to the pinnacle of power for women in this world. After all, I've betrayed my conscience and sold my pure soul. I deserve some compensation, don't I?